Hello and welcome to Banking Frontiers Live. The pandemic has given a very strong thrust to digital transformation in the banking and financial sector. Needless to say, the payments business in this segment has gone up in leaps and bounds. We have seen the NPCI registering a very strong rise in the UPI transactions, which has gone multifold. On the other hand, the amount of frauds that have been observed in this area is also rising in leaps and bounds. Today, we are going to discuss with two very interesting experts on what are some of the major causes of the kind of frauds that are happening place in the payment space, especially from the app-based payment space, and how can they be mitigated or stopped, and what do organizations do in order to insulate their apps and their digital payments from any possible malware and any possible compromise. With me today, I have two very noted dignitaries. One is Mathan Babu Kasalingam, who is the CISO of National Payments Corporation of India. Mathan, welcome to Banking Frontiers Live.
Thank you.
And along with Mathan, today I am also talking to Pinakin Dave, who is the country head in India for OneSpan Technologies, which is a global leader in the area of security for digital payments and apps. Pinakin, welcome to Banking Frontiers Live.
Thank you very much, Babu.
Let us go to the first question that comes to my mind. The number of apps are growing multifold. The amount of breaches are also increasing. Now, when you observe the amount of breaches that are happening today or the kind of frauds that are taking place in the digital payment space or in the app space, Mathan, as NPCI, what do you think are the key shortcomings because of which these kind of compromises are happening? And what do you see are the possible solutions? Let's talk about these problems first.
I would qualify than calling this out loud and clear as a breach. It is ideally not the apps which land up getting breached. It's largely frauds that are happening in the current market segment. The types of frauds that are happening in the market segment is largely luring user to perform some set of actions. And that is how some of these major set of frauds that we are reading in the news are happening through. Some of these, so India, if we look at largely from the overall literacy standpoint, ideally we are roughly about 23% of our population is still largely not adequately literate enough. But now if you look at in the hands of such, we actually have largely a digital way of handling things through. So the digital literacy rate is fairly very minimal. So that's where if you would look at majority of these apps that have been built across in the payment ecosystem, actually mimics images that are fairly easy for individuals to understand and perform these various digital transactions. Now, if you look at majority of the frauds that are reported have contributed pure play from either taking over the phone completely by various set of applications that people would have, without their fair levels of understanding, would have installed, or by performing a social engineering attack on these set of users and luring them to share critical information, confidential information back to the wishing or the phishing guy who is on call. Either the compromise to the asset by unwanted, unauthorized, potentially luring applications, or by social engineering attacks that are happening in country.
Excellent. So from that perspective, I can understand that on one hand, it is the literacy that is the problem. On the other side, we are speaking about the tech sanitization and technology that is going to make a lot of difference. Let's try to combine both these opportunities and then try to see from your angle what kind of security standards are required to be prescribed to these apps in order to make them more secure.
You said it right. Expanding this to a financial inclusion is a larger initiative, both from government, NPCI, and regulator. We are all driving this as an appropriate initiative. So when we do this financial inclusion, we can't shy away from understanding and accepting the fact that we still have this wider population who may not be adequately digitally literate to safeguard themselves from such kind of breaches or frauds that can appropriately happen. So here is where putting the relevant levels of monitoring controls in terms of predictiveness and as well putting in appropriate technical controls that if not deployed as appropriately could potentially lead to a fraud. So there are essential technical side controls that can be put on some of these payment driven applications, and these are from NPCI end, there are very, very prescriptive frameworks that are put in place for these app providers to follow through to ensure that the digital payment applications remain safe and secure. So, however, if you look at the typical fraud trend continues to evolve, right? So, today, if there is a method of taking a remote control of the device in itself, tomorrow the trend may evolve to something else, an app trying to invoke yet another app and performing, and so on and so forth. So, trends will continue to evolve. How quickly such controls can be deployed comes in very, very handy in terms of controlling these frauds. Actively monitoring these transactions very effectively is very, very important to control the fraud trends that happen.
Thank you very much for your inputs about the lack of literacy, tech sanitization, and the kind of security standards that are there in the industry. Pinakin, from your perspective, if I may ask you, what shortcomings do you see in the existing apps today which make them prone to as many kind of frauds?
The major problem statement which today's banking industry or the financial institutions are facing is, the mobile banking or the app application through which they are providing the services is their property. However, the environment which resides into is not under their control. For example, they have a different versions of the OSs, could be Android, could be iOS. The devices are updated, not updated. The devices are clean or not clean. They have the free apps are getting downloaded on the user devices. The user devices are getting connected to the safer or unsafer environment or free Wi-Fi's. So it becomes a very difficult task for the banking institutions and the financial institutions to provide a safer banking environment through their app. Let me tell you one thing very, very clear, that they've been doing a fantastic job providing a security through their mobile app. However, the environment which it resides into is not under their control, and they cannot control the user devices. Actually, that creates a major problem for executing the frauds through the devices or through the mobile devices and the mobile banking channel. So that this is actually the major problem which the financial institutions and the industry is going through right now, and they are actually struggling to address the same.
So, from your response, I can definitely see the direction of this conversation going towards a mobile app shielding. In the sense, the app has to be shielded against various vulnerabilities. What kind of technologies are available today when it comes to shielding these mobile apps?
So the premise that I told, the fraud happens. Technical frauds, like what we are discussing, somebody taking remote control of your device and so on and so forth, can be handled in a technical manner. And there are technically methods that can be deployed to protect our application, the banking applications, from not exposing in itself to the rest of the fraudulent application that could potentially be present in the same device. The premise that we should begin itself is user is completely unaware of. The device that he can use potentially can be used by a malicious app as well. And to that effect, the entire control and the protection has to be levied around the banking application itself. So Application self-protection is a very, very crucial part when we build an application.
Let me just go back to Pinakin, who is our technology expert on this conversation, and ask him what kind of technologies are available today when it comes to shielding these mobile apps. Pinakin, can you throw some light on this, please?
As far as mobile app shielding is concerned, the concept is that the app itself is shielded in such a way that it is protected against any kind of intrusion happening to the app, which is there. For example, at OneSpan, we provide a mobile app shielding, which is essentially built on the RASP technology, which is runtime application self-protection. The name itself says that it provides a self-protection on a runtime basis. Let me tell you, every app which comes on the Play Store or App Store, which has certain static security features. However, it is most important to have a security on a runtime basis. What does it mean? Providing the security on a runtime basis means when a user is using the application, it's during the life cycle of the application, the protection should be provided. The any remote access management tool should not access the mobile banking app remotely on user's device. So what we do is, with the help of this solution, if it is enabled on the mobile application, the screen goes blank. So that's a very secured way we provide the mobile banking experience to the user. If this particular solution is enabled, user is protected, by not replacing the original app with the duplicate app. So, like such, there are many other features which are there, which is provided as a 360-degree application security by OneSpan, which also includes a RASP and a couple of other features as well, and ensures that the protection is provided on a runtime basis, which is very, very important.
Interesting. I think Mathan is also very interested to put some add-on to this. Mathan, what is your thought?
Just to add on to what Pinakin said, the difference is actually, can this be done by every occasion? Can a developer build a self-secured app? The answer obviously is yes. Yeah, but what happens is, to what extent he can think of to secure the app is left to today the development guy itself. The fraudsters find out a method to actually overcome what level controls that you have put through, and then try and bypass by way of various social engineering methods for him to defraud the customers. One such is what Pinakin just explained, which is taking remote control of the entire phone. Today, it is actually a technical solution in many cases. So the speed at which a development team could actually respond back to a situation that they land up seeing is what is core and very, very important. So a quick turnaround as compared to a lengthier cycle that they would take to build the or recode the application. And then again comes the storyline of publishing it in the relevant Play Store, App Store, to popularize it and then push the updates and so on and so forth. It's a very lengthy affair in its own. That is where tech like these come very, very handy, from a quicker rollout and a quicker ability to secure such applications.
But what kind of level of sanitization today is required now, going forward from here, to take the products to the market fast?
So there are, like I mentioned in the initial start of the call itself, applications that get onboarded onto especially on the UPI ecosystem, goes through rigorous assessments, and only meeting the compliance against some of the framework that we have rolled out. There exists a framework, but like I mentioned, it is not generally published in the public visibility, but these are published to each of these participating firms who participate in the UPI ecosystem, and their apps, their infrastructure has to undergo assessment through a external third-party certain impaneled audit firm who comply themselves, who ensure that the app meets the relevant security standards that are prescribed by us. And only on compliance, fully in compliance stage is where we permit such applications to be onboarded into UPI ecosystem. They are also expected to submit periodic. There is a defined periodicity for which they will have to resubmit these assessment reports again back to NPCI. And we do that. That's how we enforce this compliance to the market.
Pinakin, can you throw some light on this, please?
One, driving the user behavior and user experience is very, very important. Okay. At the same time, if you are providing the protection within the app without touching the user device, user will have a better security, at the same time a better banking experience or a better business experience through your mobile app.
Now, just looking at the business and the technology side of it, when we see a combination factor of launching any of these products, innovation, things like that. So for this quick quick turnaround and popularization, how fast can technologies like this be implemented into the ecosystem? What is your thought on this, Pinakin?
Well, as Mathan mentioned, this security features, out of which few of them are definitely, provided by the banks and the financial institutions currently. But at the same time, the question arises that their core business is providing the banking services. And therefore, what we do is we provide this, mobile application shielding solution, which is essentially a wrapper and an SDK based solution, which is easy to implement, easy to integrate. At the same time, it is consistently available with an updated version, and ensures that the protection is provided on a runtime basis with the latest security measures taken into consideration. So it is very, very easy to deploy, but at the same time it is continuously managed by OneSpan, and thus it gives the protection on a runtime basis.
This throws in a lot more areas of improvement for the existing app, which are basically going to make their headway into the future of the banking and financial services. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for sharing some very deep insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Babu. We must thank NPCI team, for providing safer banking and the payment experience in this COVID time, 24/7.
Thank you very much.